I'm gonna paraphrase, but Michelle Obama once said, when you finally get a seat at the table, you realize a lot of dumbasses are there too.
Yeah.
And I spent so long and have spent so much time struggling for something that I deserved probably years before I got it that I did not have imposter syndrome. I did not have imposter syndrome. I was like, y'all are late.
Comedy has always mystified me because so much structure and trial and error goes into making a good joke. Chelsea Devantez understands this acutely. She fell into comedy as an adult and made a career out of very human, personal, and political stories that always have an unexpected twist. As the head writer on The Problem with Jon Stewart and Girls Five Eva, it catapulted her career and her creative autonomy into a new stratosphere. Along with her autobiography, she is now able to say all she has to say in a clear, loud, and well-funded voice that always delivers something you didn't know was coming. I hope you enjoy. This is The Other Pod.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you? Let me is this fancy mic working? That sounds right, right?
It sounds good now. Yeah,
Okay, good. Okay, good. Pull it closer to me.
yeah, it made me self-conscious of mine too. I was like, does mine sound all right?
You sound beautiful.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. I had to move my office last minute, so this is my new office, but I hadn't get it. Everything is not away yet, so I apologize.
Well, congratulations on the move. And we also just redid our office. So the fact that it looks okay is a brand new
Looks
thing.
great. Looks
Okay, thank
great.
you.
Looks very nice.
Thanks.
Thank you for. I'm so excited to get to talk to you. I really appreciate you making the time.
I
Thank you.
was so excited to be asked. This is so nice. And someone I don't really follow astrology, but they said there's a big astrological event tonight. So you never know what that means.
I don't. I mean, there could be one possible upside. I'm open
Yeah,
to total collapse as long as it moves us forward rather than where we're going.
I am open to total collapse.
At this
Yeah.
point, I'm
Yeah,
like, well,
absolutely. Absolutely. I am with you.
yeah, no, it is dark. It is dark.
Times is really hard. Are you in LA?
No, I'm in Northern California.
Oh, thank God. Okay. Yeah,
Did your
it's especially dark if you're in LA. Vibes are tough.
did your house burn down or no?
Nope. No, my
No.
house did not burn down. It's just the industry,
Oh yeah.
creatives, the fires, the raids. It's just tough. Everywhere is tough, but you just really feel it in the city.
Well, I feel like what's going on with ICE and the National Guard, we are at kind of a decisive moment. Like I was talking to my partner the other day and I was like, I think we're hitting, at least for me, like this is the threshold. Like if this goes the way it could go, people have to start things have to again, this is where I'm like, if this is the bottoming out so that we become a better society, I'm not happy about it. But if we bottom out and we don't change, I don't know what happens.
I think that's a really great way to put it. Yeah.
And and also like when you look at LA too with the strike, and it's really, I have a lot of friends in the industry, and it sounds incredibly challenging right now.
It's a yeah, it is. It's challenging on so many levels that it definitely like collapses your brain every other minute, and you just gotta like reboot and reboot and reboot. Yeah.
Do you care if I dive in?
No, not at all.
Okay. So you went to New York City, but you went to go to NYU. I'm going to skip the beginning because
Oh
we'll
yeah,
get to that at other points.
great.
And there you discovered your love of comedy, but you came from no money, no connections, nothing that gives you a leg up in a very familiar, friendly industry.
Yeah.
And you started a very long grind to build your career. And I was wondering, looking back, let's say within the first 5 years, what was a defining loss and a defining win for your movement forward?
You know, I think the biggest one that comes to mind, it's the same move for both answers, which is that like when you I don't know what it's in like for people's perceptions right now, but when I went to New York City from New Mexico, it's like if you can make it in this city, you
Yeah.
can make it anywhere. And at NYU, they definitely drilled into you that like if you can't make it here, like you probably can't make it. Like New York City is the place to be, and anywhere else, you're a failure and you've dropped out. And so for me, I I didn't know. I just was so stupid. I had no idea how much I was about to struggle in New York City.
Yeah.
Um, just even, and it's all America, but culturally coming from the
Yeah.
Southwest to New York
Yeah.
City was really intense.
Yeah.
And financially, like
Yeah.
I just, because if you have a dream, you need to at least be able to put some hours into that dream. And I was working 80 hours a week just to barely survive. So it was this hard moment of like, I can't even do the thing I came here to do because I can't afford to be here.
Yeah.
And I had gone to Chicago for a study abroad.
Yeah.
That's right. I said Chicago for a study abroad. It was a weird credit transfer. And I fell in love with that city as a place to live in your early 20s and be able to pursue the dream.
Yeah.
And I made this choice that at the time felt like it was such an intense choice that I was going to leave New York City and I was going to pursue comedy in Chicago. And built into that choice was that like I guess I was a failure. I was a failure. I was leaving the city. And then when I got to Chicago, my life blossomed and thrived. And I think I became the artist I am because I was in Chicago. And I just feel so sad for the 20-year-old me that was like paralyzed with like destroying my life if I left the city.
Yeah. And then what would you say is a win? Would you say the win was the move to Chicago? The same thing?
The win was choosing where I could become an artist versus choosing the city that is perceived as success versus the city that was actually going to give me success. I lived in a $300 room in a house with other rooms, but mine was $300 because I didn't have a window. And it wasn't that long ago. So this is like, I don't know, 13 years ago, I had $300 rent and I could work just 40 hours a week and then put 50 hours into art. And also the community was a lot more open in Chicago, I think because it was less cutthroat of. And so then, as a baby comedian who knew nothing, I could make friends. I could do tons of improv shows. We could afford space to perform. And so it had all these benefits that I don't think I would be as good of an artist as I am today if I had not had Chicago.
Well, also, the thing that always amazes me with comedians is there's this incredible amount of vulnerability. Like, you've got to be willing to be a total asshat and be totally okay with that. And like, sometimes it'll land and sometimes it doesn't, and it's just bad. And and I think having being in a city where it's not like you have to win all the time, but two, having enough money that if you, stratospherically collapse, that you can get back up and try again. I imagine that would increase your ability to try rather than feeling like if this doesn't work for me this time around, I'm done. I don't know if that's true though.
I think that's a great point. And I don't think I would have thought about it at the time, but it's like I put up so many shows and some were good and some were bad. And I was filming like a web series or a short film every single year I lived in Chicago. So that's like 8 years. And that wouldn't have been possible. Obviously, I was like buying the cameras from Best Buy and then returning them within 30 days. But all the other circumstances that allowed that to happen, I might have felt more pressure on like my first project ever if I thought there was no chance I could ever try again.
Yeah. And so, obviously I read your book. I shouldn't be telling you this. And one of the connective things I was trying to figure out is, how do I say this? I hope it sounds okay. You had a tumultuous and eventful and, inspiring, but also incredibly difficult childhood into adolescence. Is that fair?
I think that's right. I love the word eventful. I got to add that to the bio. Very eventful.
Many things happen. And when and you sort of looked for people that there were these points of stability and these points of comfort, and some were and some weren't, and as life goes. But I'm curious, where did the idea of things being funny come in, and where did the idea of being funny come in? Because for a lot of comedians, it's like how they assuaged a difficult or tense home life, right? And you had difficult things go on, but your mother clearly is like this important sort of pillar for you, not someone that is a lot of wreckage. And so I'm wondering, like, how did being funny come about, and was it always part of your worldview that then once you got older you pushed in a different direction, or where was that in your gestation as a person?
Yeah, it was so like now because I'm a comedian, I go back and I try and find where that was in my childhood, and I cannot find it. I think it might not have been there. I think I was in so many serious situations that I think the part that translates to comedy now and the type of comedy I write is often like satire or like, I don't want to say comedy with a purpose because that makes it sound like it's not funny, but like I do have beneath the dumbest things I do, I think point of view. I do a lot of point of view driven comedy. And so I think those hard things shaped a point of view, or they shape absurdism, because you're like, can we swear on this podcast? Should I try
Wait,
not to?
what was that?
Swear.
Oh,
Swear.
please. Oh,
Okay, okay.
go. All of
Okay,
it.
okay. Okay.
Every word.
Yeah. I mean, I think most of my childhood was spent being like, the fuck? Like, what the fuck is this? And I also think there was just so much unfairness in how things were happening. And I think feeling like something unfair has happened, feeling like something's insane, not understanding why things are happening, I think led to comedy for me, because that's where you like poke holes and poke fun. But we didn't grow up with TV. I grew up with Mormons for 8 years of my life. And then I was just really missing, I missed the window that would reflect back to me who I was for most of my life. And so I came to comedy so weirdly. Like, at my new school, these girls described an SNL skit called where it's like it was Will Ferrell and Sherry O'Terry doing burrito, tostito, what's coming out of your Speedo? It's me, which I only saw a decade after I performed it at my school auditorium, changed all the words to be about specifically about our school. And I crushed, but I was in such a small town that I had big old boobs, and I was 14. And I think it couldn't be allowed. They're like, no, but you're supposed to be a dumb slut. Like, why are you doing the comedy sketch at the pep rally? And so I experienced these versions of feeling like I was very weird and I was very odd, and I wouldn't just like fit into what I was supposed to be. And it just, that's why it took so long to get to New York City, see improv once and go, oh my God.
Yeah.
I've missed so much. And then I started a comedy education of like trying to educate myself of the 20 years I had missed of knowing what was going on in the world.
But there is something really wonderful about coming to something without all the preconceptions, right? Like you come to
Yeah.
it very fresh.
I do think it is a huge part of my talent is a huge part of my talent. No, but I think I can see it all the time where like I don't have certain rhythms built into me. And so I think it makes things that I do, they always feel original, because I'm missing out on things that would make it easier for sure. But I also get to bring something different to it because I don't have like David Letterman's cadence like in my brain as like a 3-year-old, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I love that. And that's part of what I thought was so interesting about talking to you is you take all these different pieces of things, right? Like you came from a serious academic achievement background. You came from, I don't know if poverty is the right word, but not as much
Yeah,
as other
it's
people.
so interesting, the word poverty in this memoir journey,
Yeah.
because depending on like, I mean, there are people who read the book who were horrified. You know what I mean? Where they're like, you come from just the most disgusting place I've ever heard of in my life.
Oh my God.
But I also grew up in a town full of people like me. So I'm like, okay, there's actually a lot of us, y'all.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think we also went in waves. Like there were times when
Sure.
one of my stepdads, like
Yeah.
he got into multi-level marketing and we were
Yeah.
fucking balling like
Yeah.
Olive Garden every Friday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so things went up and down, and yeah.
But I think that's part of what's interesting in trying to suture together a decisive point of view. And I think that is something that lacks. A lot of things are sort of iterative. And I think that's what's interesting about your work is it's not iterative. And part of what I was wondering too is I hope again this I know you say all this in your book, but I'm like not sure if I want to
And then
say it.
you say it back and you're like, am I gonna hurt her feelings
Yeah, I know
with her
exactly.
life?
Or I'm like, oh God, I hope this isn't
No,
too much. But
it's fine.
there's a lot of trauma, right?
Yes,
And the
yes.
thing that fascinates me about comedy is that it, to a certain extent, it really is all trauma, for
Yeah.
the most part. And I'm wondering, in doing it and in living it, is the comedy something that allows you to release what's gone on, or does it defer it? Like, do you metabolize it through going through it and talking about it and being public and making it funny, or does it take it and sort of put it in a silo and then you hope it just goes away? Like, I'm curious what a comedian's approach is to that.
What a cool question. I definitely think it's different for all of us. There's
Okay.
comedians I can think of right now and they go, uh-oh, they're putting this in little boxes, and
Yeah.
they don't know that the boxes are all going to come back
Yeah.
and spill their trauma back onto them.
Yeah.
For me, it allowed me to to process it. So I wouldn't say the comedy processes it. I would say writing a memoir sure as hell does. And going to trauma therapy really does. I think comedy allowed me to sustain those journeys because it's like a journey that's really tough and really annoying and hard. And I think comedy allowed me to stay in it. But now that I've written this memoir, I I have to put I get to I'm really excited about it. Write all this bonus material for the paperback version.
Oh, nice.
And I'm like, it feels I'm like, oh, now I can just be funny
Yeah.
because I don't have to like carry all this shit with me I was carrying. And so I feel funnier now with trauma processed.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's this thing in the ether of like the trauma is what makes you funny. I'm not sure that's right.
God, I hope it's not what's right.
It better not be, or I'm fucked because I'm trying to heal over here. Okay.
Yeah. No, and that's real. And that's where you know, some of the funniest things come out of being able to talk about it or at least position it in an unexpected way. But at the same time, I don't think anyone or hope no one wants to live there forever, right?
Yeah. I mean, and yet it feels scarier to share it. I
Yeah.
think like
Yeah.
every day I'm like, so I'm just so thankful that I found a way towards sharing it, which I, at one point in my life, I thought would kill me or I would do something before I had to share. And now that I've like walked through it and
Yeah.
shared and feel so immensely better, I just can't believe I almost missed out on it.
To that point, because some people may not know this, but in the hardback version, there's a place where you talk about a very unfortunate relationship that had a lot of domestic violence and unpleasantness, and that had to be redacted. Is that redacted in the paperback version or not?
Oh yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
oh, they kept it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And what's interesting is that the publisher actually didn't redact it. I redacted it
Okay.
because the publisher told me to delete the whole thing.
Right, right. Yes, I
So,
didn't
and
explain that well.
no. It's hard. They also said I couldn't tell people why they were asking me to
Oh,
delete it. So it's like it's vague
yeah.
in the book. So I
That
never
makes
know what people know. But so I redacted it as a way to be like something was here
yeah,
versus putting out a memoir where like that piece
wasn't
of me
there.
didn't exist when it's like such a huge part of who I am. And so yeah, so that will remain. But in the paperback, I am including now that I've calmed down. Um, the essay I'm beginning is the process of being told to delete it and why I redacted it and what it was like to go through that. So that'll be in there now.
Okay. Because I think that that's an important framework for the whole thing, right? And once you read the book and you see like your mother's past relationships and all these other things, a lot of it congeals in a different way where you're like, oh, which all of us have, which are sort of expectations of normalcy and how hard
Yeah.
it is to sort of divorce out what was normal for someone who we admired and were close to and what we'd like to be normal for us.
Yeah. Well, I also think normal was and is safety,
Yeah.
especially from male violence.
Yeah.
Especially even if you're not, even if it's not male violence, it is still those threads throughout culture of being made fun of or being fired or being like if you want to be safe in life, it's be normal.
Yeah.
And so that's why I want it to be normal, not because I like sought popularity, but I was just like, please,
Yeah.
I just want to live.
Yeah.
I don't want you to think I'm weird. I want to be able to like be a comedian and be successful. And so I'm just going to be a normal lady. And of course, the lesson in all of it is the moment I finally embraced who I was and was not normal is when I became the most successful because
Yeah.
you have to be who you really are to be successful. And normal should not have to equal safety. And I think that's like what we're all working on changing.
Some of us. I think some of
Yeah.
us are working on
Well, you and I are in it.
yeah, no. And then we'll get to this, but the other side is really, really kicking my ass lately. Well, so I'm going to skip ahead a teeny bit because you've welcomed her in, but Dix Pictoria.
Thank you. Yes. Worst drag name ever. But yes.
It's to the point. There's no
Sure.
ambiguity about what's about to happen.
Yeah, that's right.
Is the name of your drag queen persona, and I think it's important to note that you talk a good deal in the book about the fact that you were welcomed into this community, that it is not typical for like a cis woman to be a performer in this community, and yet you did it. And the thing I thought was so fascinating about that, which I actually think so many female identified people struggle with, is it feels like this persona was the thing that led you to understand the kind of woman you wanted to be. And I was wondering if we could get more detailed about that, because I think so many of us think that being a woman is X, Y, and Z. And
Yes.
drag is very presentational, right? It's very much taking these tropes and subverting them or embracing them or whatever you want to do with it. But I think figuring out your own personal definition of womanhood is so hard. And I think something that is entangled with sexuality and with a lot of other pieces. And I'm wondering how Dix led you to that and what that meant and what you came out of it with a better understanding with, if you don't mind
Yes,
sharing that.
of course. So I stopped performing drag really because it's just such a giant art form that takes so much time, and I was also a comedian, and I didn't have the money or the hours for both, and so eventually I had to choose. So I don't perform anymore, but if I did perform again, Dix is dead, I would be Ashton Culture going forward. Just to put that out there. But at the time I was just such a baby drag queen. I wanted like a really artsy name. I didn't want to use a pun because I was dumb. And so anyway, so that's how that name came about. And I will say I was welcomed at the Monday night amateur show that was open to anyone who identified as anything. Had I tried to really perform as a queen in the city, I think I would have come up against a lot more. Also, let's be clear, I did have some haters at the show, particularly some of the contestants that you know what I mean? Like I wasn't like all easy peasy. And what I loved about doing drag for many reasons is that it truly breaks the binary to have a cis female queen perform as a female queen, because we think women are men, men are women. And so when I come in or Chapel Roan comes in, right, to do this, you're like, wait, that's not, and that processing breaks the binary,
Yeah.
right? It's not this, it's not that. Like we said, it's a spectrum, and
Yeah.
gender as a performance is something that everyone's doing. Like, yes, drag is performative, but everybody performing gender all the time. And I think like when you kind of break those tropes is when like things grow. So I am so grateful to the other queens who really did welcome me, who saw like, you know, it's like Alaska Thunderfuck famously has been like everybody is welcome. Other queens have not been that way. And I think now that Chapel Roan is here, I think it's really easy for people to understand and realize this art form and what's about it. And yeah, it changed my life so intensely. I had always thought these qualities. I'm very naturally a high femme person. Like not like I said earlier, we just had big old boobs popping up. I'm very curvy, but also my inclinations. I also love makeup. I love big hair. I love Dolly Parton. I love all that stuff. And I always thought those things made me weak, or these parts of my body are what draw violence towards you. Or this part, like if I put on makeup and whatever, I'm not a serious person. Like all these feminine things are weakness. And when I saw drag and perform drag, it turned all these things I saw as weak into power. And I think really interestingly, it's because I was watching men sometimes perform femaleness and it became powerful. But then I was like, I want that. Right. My nails are powerful. My lipstick's powerful. Like this is not weakness. It's something incredible. And I don't think I became the person I was supposed to be by performing drag, where I sucked a puppet stick made out of rock candy and spat at the audience. So please understand, I was not doing it. The puppet stripped me. I stripped the puppet. It was a duet. Like, you know, that was the kind of stuff I was up to, but I came away from it really, it allowed me to like be who I think I was meant to be.
And what is it like then when you re-engage with all these pieces of yourself that you felt were maybe not a deficit, but definitely not a positive? And does it take time to reshape your relationship to yourself in that way? Or is it just sort of like all of a sudden, actually, no, I'm looking at myself totally differently?
Once you are in a thong fucking a puppet on stage, growth
It's
is pretty fast. Once you are playing the magician and the magician assistant and pulling balloons out of your puss, like you're there. You're there. So I'm gonna say I just it was just there. Nothing scared me after that. I also like we all grew up in diet culture. We were told to hate your bodies, especially like in the early aughts, like having curves, you were just like a monster. And so I mean, like I would be like, I need a tankini and shorts and a cover up to go to the pool. And then, but through drag was able to be as naked as I wanted.
that's
That's like,
amazing.
that's amazing transformation. And that just remained in my body because I've already done it. And I did it in front of a crowd and they had to vote. You know what I mean? And so I I immediately like I wear bold lipstick to interviews. I'll wear crop tops to comedy. Like it just instantly became just who I was, and I wasn't afraid of it. And also, I think it's powerful, and also it makes me laugh when it scares people. Like when men are like, "But you can't have just made a joke out of that glitter mouth," and you're like, "Yeah," and it's
Right.
fun to watch.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I think too, there's which I also wonder about with you, there's this very interesting melding of the performative and the authentic. And
Yeah,
is it hard to navigate that you're putting things on display because necessarily, and also you understand pop culture, like there's a certain amount that people just want to consume, and there's a certain amount that people want things to be digestible. And so you are offering some piece of that, but at the same time, you're also saying, but this is 100% who I am, and you're going to have to interface with that as well if you want this other piece. And is that by
yeah.
design or is that just what came out of you?
I wish I could have designed it, would have done a better job. Um, no, you know what? I think I spent the majority of my life hiding. I mean, I was probably like 32.
Oh, wow.
Uh, I mean, I really, and as you know from the book, I was hiding really giant secrets, like that domestic violence relationship, like how many times my last name had been changed,
Right.
like being donor conceived. I was hiding things that were like truly killing me, and leading me to a lot of really dark places. And I thought they were just going to end me. And I was trying to just success my way out of it or normal cosplay my way out of it. And when it really didn't work, and I finally got into trauma therapy with the right person, I made that really slow journey towards sharing. And you can't really share a small part of any of those things I just said because people are like, wait, what? Wait, what? Like you can't like piecemeal it. And so once I was there and I shared on my podcast first and then I did the memoir, it's just so there. It can't be anything but the full what it is. And because I spent most of my life hiding, now every piece of my life is a veil.
Right.
And that is, I wish I could have not had to give everything. That's the truth. And I think if I wasn't in this industry, I wouldn't have had to give everything.
Right.
But now that I have, that's just the freedom I live in now.
But it sounds nice.
It honestly is a million times better than where I used to live. And I would not have like continued life as that within that like it was never I was never going to be able to continue that. And so thank God I found this version. And yeah, it is really fucking nice. And I do have to remember like, oh yeah, it is pretty strange that I'm okay with you knowing this about me, but also like I'm grateful for it. And it was a slow process. Like it took a long time to even share in therapy. And then after that, we we really worked on how I could slowly share and build back my nervous system and deal with CPTSD to the point where like I could share with the public. That was like a 7-year journey.
Okay. Okay. And do you still have like triggers and things like that, or is it really sort of full circle resolved?
I
More or less.
wish. I wish.
Yeah.
No, I definitely, yeah. Still have the triggers, but I think the difference is that like I have a lot more tools and I have a lot more awareness. I had no idea I really was like, oh my God, I've been through so much and I'm totally fine. Isn't that crazy? And then later was like, oh, I didn't know you could dissociate 70% of your life and had no idea I was dissociating. It
Wow.
just,
Yeah.
and so now I'm aware of things. I can feel when someone has said something and it's going to be a nightmare for me, but now I just have like tools in place to try and like help me out of it. And sometimes it goes well and sometimes it doesn't. And I still have to like be very careful with meds, and I had to up my dose when the book stuff was happening. And
Okay.
so no, it's ongoing.
It's a constant evolution.
Yeah.
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 So, and what I'm wondering too, so first of all, walk me through your creative process and your humor and all of that early on. Like, how did you come up with what the joke you wanted to tell? And to caveat this, which also is in the book, a huge part of your creative dynamic was with someone else for a long time. There was always sort of an interplay with another person. Then that relationship hit a wall and you had to sort of assert yourself, which I think compounded with all these other things you had to deal with. You starting to really take responsibility for who you were and working through a ton of trauma. Like, I think those things coincided in a way that allowed you to evolve. What was your creative exploration and comedy like for you, let's say 15 years ago? How did you write a joke? What was the point? Was the story was the story the thing you wanted? Was the punchline the thing? And then as you have evolved, has your writing style and your approach to what you're doing changed?
A beautiful question. So 15 years ago, I am still probably like I'm not fully in control. And this would be 1 year before I go on a cruise ship, which is when is true, is when I became in control when I was on stage. Just because you did so many reps to so many
Mm.
people. There was so much wine, which was so nice. And
And
that really
flutes.
and flutes. Well, actually, he was a saxophone player, but that'll just be hot tea for you.
Yeah.
So yeah, I at 24 was like kind of like you're like I think I know what I think I'm headed towards a joke, and I was an improv. I did improv. I almost said improv artist. Blah. I did improv. That was a huge part of my background, and then also writing was something that was slowly coming. I didn't realize I was a writer, and I thought I was just a performer and an actor. And so when I was finding jokes, then it would be through act through like on stage, and I really started, not started, I started early to study writing, but I don't think any of it was like making sense until I was about 24. I mean, I've read every book, every podcast, every DVD, I've taken in everything. Once I finally got a hold of structure
Okay.
is when my life changed comedically because it finally gave me the control to say everything I wanted to say as many times as I wanted to say it with a laugh, which was all I cared about. Like and so I really cared about the punchline. I would say story was the last thing that developed for me. Because even now, especially if you're watching like a half-hour comedy, when it's really funny, you don't care what the story is if it is a half-hour comedy. Like, yes, like so like 30 Rock has great stories and like reveals and things like that. But let's say you're watching I don't know, let's say you're watching just like an episode of Golden Girls, right? Like sometimes the story would be like um Rose has a new boyfriend. Well, it was, and she met, you know what I mean? Like the story's like, but we don't, but we love how the characters are like, oh, Rose has a new boyfriend. That's enough of the story. Rose has a new boyfriend and she's going to go on a date with him. That was the story. That's not even 3 beats of a story. Right. And so when you have those funny antics, you're still enjoying the show, but when you're going to get into like a film or a dramedy or something that has to have more heart, I couldn't access the part of me that even wanted to do that until I could like access my own emotional heart, which I wanted to stay away from. So back then was all bits, all punchlines. And at Second City, we had something called blackouts, which is where like a joke happens so quick that they pull to a blackout. Mm-hmm. So they're really tiny, short scenes. Okay. And those were my favorite things, like get in, do a crazy joke, gets blacked out. And I made up, like you could see in my web series and things like that. Like I wasn't telling full stories.
And when you talk about comedy structure, just in case listeners don't know, what is comedic structure? Like how do you put something together? What's the bodily structure of it?
Yes, it depends on what medium you're in, but kind of classic structure and the hardest one to learn and execute would be monologue jokes. And then everything can like kind of iterate from there. But the true test, I still think, and Jon Stewart actually taught me this, which of a writer is write 10 monologue jokes. Because if that is a form you can crush, you like a good monologue joke is also a good premise to a sketch.
Okay.
Right. The joke, and then you play it out. But if you cannot get that really concise, really short punchline and a turn within one sentence in a, monologue jokes are also like really rote. Like we've heard them all. We know the cadence. And so if you can, it's funny and it's still fresh. It's just a really hard thing to pull off. So my friends, I'm in a group that I wrote about in the book, group thread that in the book I called Roger. And my friend actually just was trying to teach her son at school and his friends stand-up comedy jokes. And she said that the setup is the serious part And the second thing you say is the silly part, and all the other words tie it together. So that's one way to look at structure. Other ways to look at it would be like there's a hook, there's your angle, there's your twist. Yeah. I like to look at jokes as reveals, the best ones, which are you present a set of information and then you introduce a new element that changes your previous perception of that information you already learned, which sounds really heady, but like the easy way to say it is a Joan Rivers joke. I was born in 1962. The room next to me was 1963. Right. So she introduces the information. She was born in 1962. That's her age. New piece of information. The room next to me was 1963. Ha ha. Now I'm laughing. She's talking about hotel rooms. Right. So that's kind of like the base, but you can, once you can master that structure, you'll see it in so many jokes. And there's multiple different kinds of structures. And that's just one of them.
Thank you. Thank you for just because sometimes people don't know how these things work, and it's nice to give them a sort of a baseline to start from.
Even studying it, people would say that to me. And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, it took a long time to really understand the frameworks behind everything.
And then can we digress to your writing style now, your understanding of comedy now, because you've lived this for so long. So when you go to something, I'm sure some stuff is rote at this point, but like, how do you create something you feel is worth saying?
Yeah, I mean, definitely I can feel the 15 years in my bones. Like, I mean, really, like I feel like a beast or a machine, you know, which is a great feeling to have because I remember all the years I did not feel that way. I always come from point of view. And the way we have a casual school on Patreon where we teach some of this. And I always teach point of view is like, think of something in your life that matters to you. So you could pull up the news and you could be like, this headline makes me mad, you know, or you could go into your life and be like, remember that thing my brother said to me, something you care about, and then find your strongest emotion. Mm-hmm. So is it, mine's always anger. It's rarely anything else. But you want the emotion to be really strong, like love, fear, anger, something really strong. And then you ask yourself, why? Why am I so mad about, you know, this thing I saw in the news? And then your answer to that will be very basic. And then you ask yourself, yeah, but why? And you just keep going. Mm. And what you'll end with is a very specific point of view.
Okay.
And then that is like so routinely in me that it's like, oh, this, you know, and so I know I have something to say when I feel really strongly about it. Yeah. And then there's other projects, like I just wrote this cruise ship pilot where it's like, it's just all fun and jokes and bits. But it's still coming from point of view because I worked on a cruise ship and I'm like, remember when that thing happened? That was fucking insane. And so then I write a joke about it, you know, and that's coming from a different place than like being mad at the news, but they're both point of view driven.
Yeah. It's interesting you'd say your feeling is always anger, because through the book, I just thought there was this profuse sense of searching and sadness, and that the sadness through the book lifts till when you get to, you know, sort of the end. And I was like, oh, thank God. Like, thank God she's not in that other place anymore. And I think but I would love to see you angry. I feel like I don't see a lot of that.
Yeah, it's really, listen, therapy is a long ongoing journey. I think sadness was always the root. Yeah. And anger was the engine out. Yeah. And so I've always been so grateful to anger because I think it's how I survived. Yeah. And still how I survived at times. However, being a lady gal in this world, anger often doesn't
serve you,
and it often ends in more violence. And so the way my anger expressed almost never looks like anger, except for when I got drunk. I have punched 3 men, so it's there. But I was listen, I went to therapy. No one get mad at me. I went to therapy, worked some stuff out. Okay. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, even now, like on the book press tour, I only had one horrific interviewer, like really rude, cruel person who I must have like triggered them to the point where you're like, I don't, anyways, I did this and I did it and I was livid. And I knew I was right and they were wrong and rude and whatever. And I, you know, the episode came out and I told my therapist, I was like, I am that person, like I could run them over with a car. Like that's how mad and I was so cruel to them on that podcast. I was mean back to them because I was like,
Right.
what are you doing? No, you listen back. I am the nicest fucking bitch. Yeah, I laugh.
No.
I encourage them when they're feeling bad. I tell her I'm going to come back on her podcast when she asks me to. And I was like, oh no. Like I am in a prison of niceness. Just surviving.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
they call that fawn in trauma, like fight, flight, freeze,
Yeah.
or fawn.
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel the anger. I can write the anger. I can
Right.
perform the anger, but I'm sure as hell inviting you over to tea when I want to run you over with my car instead. And I hope one day I can change that.
Well, maybe the next step is you sort of figure out how to twist the knife once you get that, like you kill them with kindness. Maybe that's your end strategy.
Yeah, I got to find something. I think at the base of it, I still have this desire because of where I grew up and a lot of
Yeah.
my stuff just happened to come from men, that niceness and making people like you was always the fastest route to safety and success. And so I think to be mean to someone, you have to be okay with the fact that they're going to be like, that gal's a bitch.
Yeah.
And I still have this like, no, if they walk away, then they could come back because people are mad at bitches. They could further try and hurt me another way. And so it's like, I can't actually pull it off yet because I just want to like be okay. Isn't that so sad?
It's not sad. It's life, you know. It's
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
It's like everyone, and I think, and maybe this leads to the question now: is the time that we're in, things feel so tenuous, and there's so much danger, and there's so much bad stuff going on for so many people that like that point of view makes sense. I think there's just the counterpart where it's also like, when does the rage hit the point of no return? And that I also don't know.
Yeah. I mean, for a long time, and I think this was like also in the girl boss zeitgeist lean in years,
Yeah.
it was taught to us that like you could change the system from within it, or you could make a tiny difference within the system.
Right.
And that mattered. And I believed that up until like 8 months ago.
Yeah.
Like, and like me being in comedy and being a woman, or that all these things like mattered or changing or whatever. But you can't destroy a system while upholding it.
Agreed.
And we are all a part of so many systems that would take what right now feels like an unfathomable amount of it. It's like you have to turn in the person that's like, I built a mud hut and I live off the seeds in the front. And you know what I mean? To really secede from this. And so if you're in the game, how do you play the game? Right now, like, listen, I'm in Hollywood. It's like I've agreed to play, and I'm trying to play it the best I can, to give back the best I can, most ethical ways I can. But I think unless I fully put everything down, I could not fully tap into full rage. You know what I mean? The most I can do is write in my book about how I yelled about that guy who just like loved Woody Allen every day. And he took me off his mailing list. And I feel like we've made some progress there. And he's learned and I've learned. And now it's in a book for people to read about. And like, that's where I'm at. But I'm still in a business with people like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So how much like, if I hadn't done it in my like fun, jokey way, right? Or if I hadn't got enough success that I could print it in a book and know that maybe I can still work again. I'm saying maybe.
I understand.
Like, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's a really difficult balance. And you know, my husband is like truly revolutionary, like burn it down.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for him because I also have the childhood trauma of like, okay, but I need to pay the bills. We need to have food tomorrow. And that will keep you in things like it'll have you being nice when you feel rage a lot.
I agree. Well, so I want to get your husband because I did have a question about him, but I think
okay, love that. Yes, we're entering the chat.
I will bring that up in 2 minutes. But I think this is the tenuous position that a lot of us find ourselves in right now, where it's like you want to have the ability to say something and you want to be able to say it publicly. But I do wonder though that if enough people start saying more and saying it more loudly, and like just doing simple things like getting off Facebook or Meta completely and stuff like that, I do think there's room for some steps forward to happen, even if it's piecemeal.
I don't believe that the entire system will change with the ways but I still believe it's in changing. And like listen, this is why I love comedy, because if you can get people to laugh, you can say anything.
True.
That's the truth.
True.
And so I've said a lot, and I continue to say a lot and get a lot done through comedy or through just like really fun, beautiful stories that you don't realize actually had a huge feminist manifesto embedded in them. That's everything I write, like First Wives Club, you know what I mean? It is a deep manifesto of revenge and power, and yet they're singing, "You don't own me," right? Like, you can do so much through art, which is like why I choose it and why I love comedy. And also, like, I've created this group over on Patreon that like really is so different than like any other social space, like Meta or Facebook, that I'm like very proud of. And yet I mean, like, I'm really dealing with this right now. I mean, like, I kind of thought, like, we all agreed J.K. Rowling was a loser. Like, I was like, yeah, we all know that, obviously. And I received a lot of hate for that.
Really?
And yeah, and I like can't believe it. Like, because
Oh,
my podcast is about female memoirs,
yeah.
and it is. You've heard me speaking, has all my values embedded into
Yeah.
every moment of it. Like, I'm like, how'd you listen to this thing if that's how you feel? But that's when you have to make choices of like,
Yeah.
we're gonna pay a price of less listeners, maybe less advertisers, less money.
Yeah.
And like you just have to choose when like I will happily pay that price.
Yeah.
And you have to negotiate the prices you pay as you go. But I truly feel that like, but I don't know, because I also believe in luring people in and changing their mind without them realizing it. And if I am out here yelling at them, as I've been doing,
Yeah.
that their beliefs make them fucking losers, like, that is that going to change a human? I don't think it will. So like, what actually changes minds? How can you creep things into people? But also, when do you say like fuck off and die? But it's not going to change their mind, and that's what we need.
So not to get too theoretical, but I do wonder if it's really about changing minds so much as about taking that tiny piece in the middle that is like that. To be fair, the Democrat Party has completely forgotten about anyways, and saying to them like this is sort of the working class that has some more expansive worldview, and saying like, well, we're all just people, can we all get on that page at least? And that's where I wonder and think like if that small slice is attainable through humor, through kindness, through whatever, yes. But I think there's the other chunk, unfortunately, where if you just don't think that people deserve like kindness and dignity and decency and corporal autonomy and all those things, like I don't know if you can change that.
Yeah, and that is the question. Can you change that? I definitely think the answer is yes.
Okay.
To
Tell
be
me why.
honest.
Tell me
Well,
why.
first I want to say I feel like all the Democratic Party does is live in the middle, and they actually ignore the progressives to the left. They love the middle. They love thinking that might hate Trump so badly that you will give their party a vote, and like that will be how they'll
Okay.
get votes, is pulling Trump voters over, versus seeing this massive, massive progressive population
Okay.
that wants them to do anything progressive, and they're like, no thanks, we're going to cater to the middle,
Okay.
who don't ever vote. Like you said, they don't change, they don't flip. Like, anyways, so when I say it's possible, like my husband and I were living in a very rural part of a state last year, and we looked over one day to see our sweet neighbors who were both teachers. They had four grandchildren who were all on the spectrum and putting a lot of work into that, flying this giant Trump flag. And we were like, oh no. And they were, they were a lot older than us, and we were also like, oh no, generational differences. Oh fuck. We're clearly very different. My husband is Black and Palestinian, so I'm instantly afraid. And one day, the old guy's like coming over to our house really slowly, and he's got like something in a bag, and I'm like, fuck. And he knocks on the door, and Yassir answers, and he's like, would you like some of the lettuce I've been growing in my garden? And we were like,
No.
lettuce? Yeah. And like, it it was just this disgusting reminder, because we live in the city, that like, yeah, they
Human to
that
human.
yeah, like they're not going to, at least our neighbors were not going to set our house on fire, like and we're not going to set their house on fire. And
Yeah.
like, we could have a conversation. I don't think things are about meeting in the middle, but I do think obviously what happens online is just truly not an accurate representation of how things happen in real life. And I just think
Fair
we're
enough.
forgetting that.
Fair enough.
And so I've seen really small, beautiful change happen in my podcast community. I so far haven't seen huge change. I haven't seen someone come in and be like, actually, I hated trans people and now I get it. I wonder if that's possible. But I also know if we create spaces where we're just like, fuck you and fuck off, they will fuck off and they will militia. Like that. I like we have, it's like the Me Too movement. We were like, fuck off. And we did not create a path towards change and
Yeah.
rehabilitation.
Yeah.
What is the point of being like, fuck you? If we meant for everyone to just fuck off and die, maybe that's what was happening. But there was a gray area where it's like, how about could you grow and change and run this world differently with us? And I don't think paths to that were offered enough. So then we're in this place of just like extreme, violent, polar opposite humans believing the only way forward is for the other entire group to perish.
And I think that's a really good point. And I think part of what has been so detrimental about all of this is it's not it's an either or. There's no, okay, you made a mistake. How do we change? It's just you need to be annihilated from the earth. And for the Harvey Weinsteins, sure. But for people with lesser infractions or people who didn't know or people who fucked up and who are willing to own that, I don't think you should be wiped off the face of the earth.
No, and also it that thinking will not hurt the Republican Party. It
Yes.
will only hurt the progressives where
Yeah.
you police each other,
Yes.
you ruin each other, because I consider myself very well read and I'm going to make mistakes. I have to believe that I can still remain with my values and wanting good for the world, and that someone will like gently nudge me and I will be like, oh, thank you. Whereas, like, even now, I mean, people will be like, you know what I mean? They're like, oh God, could you please not? And it's like, why would you talk to me that way
Yeah.
if you want me to change my mind?
But this is also the problem with the Democrats, though, where they nitpick things that, like, if all the other preceding things that really matter were accomplished, sure, get upset about that thing. But
Yeah,
we are so far over here that I can't be concerned with something that's at this level. I need to be concerned with whether or not people are going to live. Like, that matters more to me.
same. And that's also where I think, yeah, I agree. I think if the conversation and the politics and the votes and like what they were actually doing was really diverted more to these larger basics, I
Yeah.
think we could go a lot farther.
Agreed. Agreed. Okay, wait. I'm gonna change course for just a moment.
Oh, you don't want to talk politics
I
anymore? It's
do.
so
I
fun.
do. We're gonna
I'm
get
kidding.
back to
No, I don't want to go back. We're done.
it. All right. So your husband, would it be fair to say this was the first sort of really reciprocal, loving sexual relationship you had been in?
Oh my
Would that be fair?
God. Well, I will say the boyfriend I had before him
Yeah.
was a very loving,
Okay.
really good, polite, kind human.
Okay.
Now, was our love special? No.
Okay.
Were we a match? No. But I would say that was my first like relationship with someone who wasn't going to harm me, who wasn't going to be cruel to me, that we were going to break up and wish each other the best. Like, I probably did the disservice by writing about it in my memoir. He's been nothing but kind,
Okay.
So, and I still tried to be kind to him. I said, like, you should probably be on his side in this argument. But I would say that was probably the first loving relationship, even if that love was not on the level love should be to, if you,
But it was
with your
good.
partner forever.
It
Yeah,
was
it was
good.
good and it was nice.
And so I asked that to simply say, once you have engaged in this very different kind of relationship, which to be fair, at least was somewhat foreign, how does that change your approach to your work, if it does? And how does it change your understanding of what you think is funny?
Ooh, good question. So it definitely made me, being with Yassir definitely made me more fearless because he is fearless. And also just the business side of things. I mean, he is just balls to the walls where I was like, polite little lady. And so listening to his phone calls, I was like, ooh, me too. I'm going to set myself on fire and yell, okay, yeah. Or at least ask for what I want and demand it. That really changed me. And our our hearts are the same.
Okay.
The way we write and tell jokes could not be more opposite. If I had to pick up his set list and perform it tomorrow, I would bomb. And if he had to pick up mine, he would bomb. He also, like, there are jokes that if he tells them to a crowd of my audience, like, people will be like, boo, boo. But we have the same hearts, and I love all those jokes. And so I think it's also helped keep me sharp and throwing punches where I might have like turned softer and more careful.
Hmm.
It's like he tells this joke where he's like, I'm getting older, but like I'm just like I'm really not ready to be a father. I'm not ready to be a father, which sucks because my daughter is 3 and she needs me, but I can't stop skateboarding. And it's like we don't have a daughter. He doesn't have a daughter. It's just a lie,
Yeah.
right? And so whereas my jokes are like, here's what really happened to me in a punchline. So but I think it's like really good to remember just like bits and
Yeah.
comedy and like not seeping into the darkness is also like very good for
Yeah.
comedy writing skills.
Interesting. Because it seems like it, again, that security that you'd been searching for so long, you actually have it, right? But you also got it once your career was in it. All those things sort of coalesced on top of each other, but once you actually had done the work to make a certain kind of life for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I had already gotten my first break in television and really my second one before we became a couple, but I my friend said this about him, but I'm going to steal it, which is that like with other partners, I was less of myself.
Yeah.
And with Yassir, I became more of myself, way more of myself. And he loved all these parts of me that I thought would like scare a romantic partner away. And I became so much more myself, my career exploded.
Yeah.
And so I had already built it, but like it flourished within the relationship, I think, because I had a partner who like wasn't afraid of it or me.
Or you. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So would it be fair to say that sort of the top break was getting The Problem with Jon Stewart?
No, the top, you mean like the biggest break in my career?
Yes.
It's so tough because um Getting Girls Five Eva was a really
Okay.
big one
Okay.
where
Okay.
like that comedy, but the problem with Jon Stewart, I was the head writer.
Yes.
So yeah, that's a huge break. But after that, I got an overall deal where like you make your own stuff. And
Yes.
so I would say those three.
Okay. Okay. Well, the reason I was asking about Jon Stewart is because the format of that show, it was very different. I think that's fair to say, right? Like you're
Yeah.
dealing with hard topics, scathing sometimes interviews. Like there's a lot of stuff going on there, and you've got to find a way to sort of make it palatable, at least in pieces, and work within the brand that he is, like what he's known for. And I'm curious when you got a break like that, and also it's high visibility, like that's a big show with a lot of money, and or I assume a lot of money, who knows, but
Yeah.
at least a lot of accessibility. When you came to that project as head writer, especially because it is so clear how much shit you had to get through, to get a break, right? Like you had worked really hard for really long on a lot of things that didn't pan out or were difficult or weren't what you had hoped for or fell through. When you got that, how did you approach having to synthesize all those things that are sort of part of what he's known as with your style, with a political climate? And was that another evolution of your creative life or not?
Yeah. I think why I love working with Jon and what I'm going to assume he loves working with me because he gave my very first break.
Right.
So he gave me my very first job. And then, many jobs later, we reunite for this show is that we are different and it makes each other sharper. And what I hope as a head writer that I would make him sharper by because he is someone who could write the entire show himself, right? Like
He could?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And that is not something I would say about almost anyone who has a position similar to his. He is truly a political genius and truly a comedic genius, and he deeply gives a fuck. And all three of those elements have to be there to write one of those scripts. He could do it himself. But so what I hope as a head writer, I was always offering things that would sharpen, turn, and twist and move and offer, right? For him to build upon. And that the ways we were different helped. And I saw it in our very first job together. Oh my God, Trump was elected president when I was at my desk, sobbing in a way that is unbecoming of a comedian at their first job. And it was Jon's hand on my shoulder being like, it's going to be okay. Now I wish that experience for everyone the morning of 2016 when that happened. And so, but we disagreed. We fought hard about why the election had happened and why certain movements were happening and like what my generation thought versus what his generation thought. And even when he still came away with his same feelings, I could see our arguments had helped develop the bit.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I'm going to push back on all these things. And if he's going to push back, now he's going to come up with the joke, the quip, his point of view. He's going to strengthen it, or he's going to realize he's wrong and he's going to change and shift. And I think his podcast is down, but like we talked about ways that like I had changed his mind, he had changed mine back in 2016. And then on the problem, I was not the showrunner. So there was also a showrunner who had come from news that was also like really heavily influencing that new format. And so for me, it was definitely an evolution in that I had finally shared that I was a domestic violence victim survivor.
Yeah.
And I'd never, ever told anyone that piece of me. And so I was able to create this episode on gun violence with him because I happen to know of the very real statistic that 60% of mass shootings happen by shooters who have a documented history of domestic violence. And I say documented because there are already laws in place that if you have a history of domestic violence, you cannot own a gun. And it was one of these incredible episodes where usually the solve is like new legislation that's going to take 7 years and money. And like, it's just, you're so far away from the solve. This solve to mass shootings is still available to us, which is just follow the laws that already exist.
Yeah.
If a man has committed or woman has committed domestic violence, don't give them a gun. That's already a law. So if you just followed it, you could potentially cut down on 60% of mass shootings. That's a lot. So we were able to do that episode because I had that little fact in my brain because of what I'd lived through. And that's something that maybe Jon wouldn't have encountered in the same way. And then we were able to make this episode on guns.
Okay. Interesting. And was it in writing for him, is it like you're writing for a character in all the other things that you did, or is it different to write for a specific human being?
Very different.
Okay.
And yeah, it's a really distinct voice. And it's also, he's not he has such a strong comedic voice as a human. Like he does stand up. He's still a stand-up comedian, you know, that's how he started. And so it's not like he's like playing a character either. Like this is his stand-up, his point of view. And so, yeah, it's hugely different.
Okay. I was curious because that seemed like a big different piece of your career is that particular writing part, you know, because it really does someone else.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And like I got my start in late night political news comedy. I've done a handful of shows, but my real what I really write is like funny female characters with strong female stories. Yes, and so, yes, that was that's when it's really like we're tapping into point of view and joke structure.
Right.
When those skills are like really come in handy.
Yeah. I love hearing about it. I hope it's not too like specific, but I love hearing about how you do this because it's something I could never do. And it's so interesting because it's so wonderful to be able to laugh, especially at tragedy.
Yeah.
But like, I could never do it. I could never make that joke myself.
Okay. Well, I love that. And I think like, yeah, there's also my favorite comedies are ones that I couldn't write myself because if I could write it myself when I'm watching it, I'm going boop, boop, beep, boop, do, 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 right? Like I've really got to find shows that are like really far away from who I am in order to like have a good time again. So I get it.
I get that. So when you get something like these three sort of pieces come together with the show, him, and then a deal, I'm always curious, how do you deal with ego? Because you've worked your whole fucking life and and it doesn't, full well, it doesn't happen for a lot of people. Really talented, smart, interesting, good people don't get a break, but you got it. What do you do with the ego, the doubt, the joy, the pride, all that stuff when you are finally at the place you really wanted to be and you have that level of creative freedom?
I have firsthand watched fucking idiots be handed so much money and power and be cruel with it and not be talented with it. And that is so good for my confidence. Do you know what I mean? I'm like, well, if that shithead can do it, I'm not questioning myself. Yeah. And like imposter syndrome is over, people. Pete Hegseth is he can't even text. Okay. So you can have the job that you want to have. And I think I did have a lot of self-doubt, but I read this Oprah quote in Oprah magazine really young. I was really young, and it just stayed with me, which is the cure to insecurity is education.
Mhm.
And for me, it meant a bitch could read her way out of anything.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, great. I just educate myself and all this pain goes away. And I love reading.
Yeah.
And so when I was like, is my comedy script good enough to even submit?
Yeah.
I read 100 other comedy scripts.
Okay.
And when you read 100 comedy scripts, you go, okay, now I can read mine. And you go like, well, that's good. That one's bad. Which one's mine? And I think that is how you develop talent and taste.
Yeah.
You have to know when it's good, when it's bad, and why. And
Right.
once you know that, you can do anything. So there's things I do now where I go, oh, that wasn't really good. But I'm like, oh, but they seem to not notice and we're getting by.
Yeah.
And so it not to say that it isn't hard, but like I also went through this entire business with one of my best friends, Ashley Nicole Black. And so we also have each other in each other's ear when you're just like, I think I'm the worst person alive. And they're like, no, remember all these other people we met who suck? You're like, you're right. I do still deserve to be here. And I think like going through hell, gathering evidence and really researching is a good way to know whether like you deserve to participate in something or not. If you cannot find it from just like magical self-love, which that'd be nice, but I didn't have that. So I was like, evidence wise, I am writing is just as many jokes as someone else. Like, let me in.
And yeah, I mean, if you have that, good on you. But the more I interact with people, the less I believe anyone has that.
It has which part?
The radical self-love.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's so hard. I would rather look at evidence.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to find. Like, if you're like, I mean, listen, like idiots are in charge.
Yeah.
Why not you?
Yeah.
If you are half as much of an idiot as anyone in charge of our country, you should run for office. You should be anything you want to be because losers are doing it.
Well, I'm gonna jump on that train with you because I cannot tell you the amount of people I know where I'm like, you're a decent, normal person. Why aren't you running for government? Like,
100%.
we'd be much better with you in charge than anyone else.
Absolutely. And people are like, where do you get your inspiration? And it's like thinking of the worst person I know and thinking of how successful they are. If they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And also what I think is interesting is, obviously you have a draw towards popular culture. It is interesting to you. You're good at synthesizing it down and making it funny. But I think the thing that I thought was so poignant was your podcast on all these women who have had who are seen as emblems of X, Y, or Z, right? And they've had these very difficult lives. And in a lot of ways, trying to give more validity rather than sort of starstruck in awe value to them. And I'm curious, how did you come to that? And what has the reception been like when you're trying to say, no, these people actually have value and worth, and they aren't just totems of sexuality or lust or jokes or whatever else? Like, what has it been like to try and give more value to women who are so often unseen as more than what they look like?
Yeah. Well, I think it's another benefit of not growing up with TV because I really don't have that starstruck quality in me because you weren't emblazoned in my brain growing up.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing is like, I wanted and want their lives. So if I'm going to look at Jane Fonda and be like, but she's just a stupid bitch, it's like, well, then what am I doing with my life? Like, I want to, and especially when I was younger, I still wanted to act a lot where it's like, but I want to be a woman in entertainment, a woman in Hollywood. And I am, right? And so it's this weird thing of like, so just because you achieve the thing, you're now like a dumb slut. Like, that's so crazy. And so it's also like, we don't let women be president, y'all.
I know.
We do let them be pop stars and actors. And so this is actually some of our most powerful women, whether you like it or not. And we've also been given these tools that don't really work and hurt us sometimes of like beauty and looks and sexuality and blah. But it's like, if that's what was given and this woman used it, good for her. Yeah. And so, yeah, I think it's interesting. It's become one of the most sincere things I do because it's not, I don't want to make fun of it. I mean, listen, we just read Christy Brinkley's book and I cracked some jokes. Okay. Yeah. So like, if it's there, it's there. But like, I'm trying to I don't know. It's why I actually found the books, which is that I loved them. I wanted to know how they did
Yeah.
it, and I wanted to know everything about their lives. And they
Yeah.
changed my life, and they did it in a really fun way and a
Yeah.
gossipy way. And I
Yeah.
think I truly think the books are incredible. And so I think I would be more successful if I Perez Hilton it, but
Yeah.
like I don't believe in it, and I don't want to do that. And I think it's stupid and untrue. And like those are the lies. My podcast is about like the truth of who someone is.
Well, also, I think the thing you look at too is just this imaginable cruelty that so many of them have gone through. And it's so visceral, like especially like a Demi Moore, where you're just like, good grief, like this woman has suffered 9 ways from Tuesday. And I understand she has money and whatever, but at the same time, like that woman suffered a lot.
So like okay, I would like to have money. Will
Yeah.
that undo the trauma in my
No,
childhood? Because if so, I need that money and
now.
now.
Yes.
um, yeah, I think if anything, it's like the fact that she can go through that, continue on, show up in a gown, smile, and find love and joy, like is nothing but inspiring.
Yeah.
It doesn't make her like less of a person.
Yeah.
It's makes her like, look at her continuing on. Isn't that incredible? And also, Ashton Kutcher is like one of those traumas too, a late in life trauma. Um,
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think like all of us have been through really fucked up shit.
Yes.
And I think we like to think that like fame and success and whatever means that that alleviates for you when it actually usually only compounds it.
Agreed.
And then you still have to be front facing and be a part of culture, whether you're hurting culture or not, you're a part of it. I think that's just fascinating.
I agree. Well, also you look at these younger girls and the Emma Stones and the Jennifer Lawrences and all of them. And the thing they have all been willing to do is cash in a certain amount of their celebrity for more anonymity. And I think
yeah.
that's interesting. They're like, no, I don't want to interface in this way anymore because it's too hideous.
Yeah. And if you don't have to, what a beautiful choice to get to make.
Yes. Yes. But I think too, especially a lot of these women, it's like, it's when you uncover how difficult so much of their lives were, and also so much of what they did was driven by, insecurity and fear. And I think that's what's really nice about what you're doing is it's not an ideal. It's still a life and it's still hard.
Yeah. And I mean, I think we all are shaped as children, we're shaped by fairy tales and we're shaped
Yes.
by tropes and
Yes.
figureheads. And like that's what pop culture is.
Yes.
And so I think for me, I
Yeah.
did more therapy and learning that Jessica Simpson was a size 4 when we were all calling her fat
Ugh.
while reading her memoir than I did in a year of therapy. Like you really can undo the ways culture has fucked us up through
Yes.
them
Yeah.
by hearing what it was like for them.
So I feel like this really is your next book or project to me, is the way that you take culture and that you use it as something to recontextualize and reshape how people understand themselves, because you're not saying like, oh, look at her, or saying something small or de minimis, but you're rather saying, I'm going to take these, again, very digestible ideas and I'm going to actually mirror them back to you in a way that's hard to manage, but has threads of all these other people's like feminist theory, like, loftier ideas, right? And you're compounding them together in a way that I think people can handle, but at the same time makes a valid and difficult point. And that's where I think your real skill is in your personal work. Like I know you can do all these other things in other places, but that's where I think like culturally we really need that right now because that's what's
Wow.
missing.
Chloe, thank you. Holy can you just like clip this part of the podcast for me? Can I tell you, I've been sitting on a book pitch and thinking to myself, I don't think anyone's going to want this. And is this what I should do with my life? With like essays titled like, what if Celine Dion had had one female friend?
Yes. No, that's
And
it.
you saying this to me, I'm like, is this a sign? Did like
Yes.
psychics send this to you to
I
tell
know how
me
you feel
so that I
about
would pitch this?
psychics. I don't want to be the psychic though, because that guy never got a call back. What was his name? Fred?
You know, his real name is Frank, but I named him
Oh yeah.
Fred in the book because I just wasn't sure. But honestly, Frank was probably fake too.
Yeah.
Wow, this was so inspiring. Thank you.
Do it because we need something that works, unfortunately, on a Kardashian level that says to people like, okay, I like this thing, but this thing actually is doing that. Do I want to do that? Perhaps not, because it's
Yeah.
all tied together and we are becoming like a solely pop culture culture. And that's where it's like if you can take that ability and thread it through where people can get it, but it also says, but we can be more, like that's the thing.
When is this coming out? Because this is the pitch. I'm going to send this
This
to
month,
both
June.
publishers.
It's
And I'm
coming
going to
out.
be like, hey, that's what Chloe said. That's the
Yeah.
pitch. Okay.
Yes. And then we'll take a beautiful picture of you for it.
I would love that.
Well,
You are really inspiring me right now. Thank you for saying those words.
well, no, because I was really interested in you and I kept going over in my brain. I was like, what is it? What is it? What is it? And then what I came to was that synthesis where it's like she's smart and she knows what's going on and she sees further down, but at the same time, she's able to say stuff that someone who doesn't, where it'll seem like lofty or, elitist, but but she's not making it bargain basement. She's still holding on to the thing up here, but she's making it relatable down here. And that's where we have to be right now.
Would you say it's glamorous trash?
I love
Would
it.
you
Yes.
say it's because that is what I really, when I came to this brand name, I was really trying for that, which is
Yeah.
like I had to I thought success came for elitist people, smart people, successful people. So I really tried, but in truth, I am a drugstore flip-flop to homecoming gal.
Yeah.
And so the putting those two pieces together and being okay with it has been what changed my life, where it's like being both is important to me.
But to caveat that though, but you're also class president, but you're also getting scholarships. And that's again, this is this very interesting place that you occupy where you've got the high and the low, but you have the high. And otherwise, culturally, we are only in the low.
Only in the low. No, thank you for saying that. And I think it. Listen, I'm going to say something really dark. I hope that's okay.
Please.
But I was voted class president like 3 months after like four boys like beat the shit out of me,
right.
At like a camp thing. And I'm saying that to say like, I think that duality was given to me probably against my will, but it's now something that I hold, which is like, yeah, how, and I think it's something really specific that happens to the feminine, like divorce from gender, but like the feminine of like,
Agree.
I want you to be this thing, but I'm also so fucking mad at you. I want you to be sexual, but also that makes me hate you. But also I want you to be that. And I think like, it's like, I want you in these places that are also making me angry.
Can I throw one thing on that fire,
Please,
though?
yeah.
I think there's also fear because I think there's performative fear. I think there's fear of what your own desires, ideas, gender, all those things are on top of it. So when you assert this thing that they want, I do think there's also an innate fear about having to interface with it as well.
I think that's right. And I think fear is what leads to the violence or the hate. And like, yeah. So I think it is that being able to hold both or be both, because that's what it is. You are rarely the class president without someone in the corner being like, actually, she should drop dead. Yeah. You never just get to be like, I'm having a great, popular, fun life.
But to your point too, that's what a lot of these women in these books have. They have that adulation, but they have this river of pain underneath all of it. And that's the thing.
And I think we've only ever, and the mostly male media has only ever written about them as like, oh my God, they're glorious and perfect. And when they're not, they're actually a stupid, trashy slut who doesn't deserve it versus the true nuance that was actually going on in their lives.
Agreed. No. And again, like I just, I think you have a lot to say and I think you say it in a way people can hear. And that's the most important thing right now.
That really means a lot to me because I think about that a lot. I really think like, how do you change? How do you actually affect change? Yeah. And I always go back to First Wives Club because when I saw it, I said, I think my mom can fight back after her divorces. And that changed my life. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, I think we need like marketable, accessible, like what would make it to the shit small town that I lived in and change some kid's life. Like that's what I want to make in this world.
I am here for that. 100%
Chloe,
here for that journey.
You've inspired me.
Thank you. Is there anything you want to say at the end? Is there anything that's important to impart? Do you have anything coming out soon or when's the paperback coming out?
Yeah, so the paperback is coming out in January. I'm turning in the bonus material now. You can follow me at Chelsea Devantez. I book club and Us Weekly once a week in my Instagram stories, and I also cover the memoirs. And then the podcast, Glamorous Trash, we have been putting out a ton of episodes, and it's been really great because I'm working film and TV on some things that just take forever. So the podcast is the place where we get to like speak and drop things. And yeah.
I love it. And again, it's been such a pleasure. And I'm not Hollywooding it. If there's something I can do that would be helpful, like I would love to get to capture you on film.
Chloe, I'm so touched and honored. And thank you so much for like reaching out to me. I'm so glad to know you now.
Me too. Me too, very much. And I love your work. And, I'm excited to see what you do next. And if you write this next book, I'm really excited.
Oh my God, I know. I'll be crediting you in the.
Not at all. No. I mean, I'm excited to see what you can do because I think there's change to be made. It just has to be with the right people.
I could not agree more. Thank you.
Enjoy your life. Enjoy your marriage.
Thank you.
Enjoy all the good things.
Yes. And you too. And you too. And thank you for being another light in this world. It's hard.
It is hard. I don't know if I am. I just try to not be de minimis. That's all.
And
So
and by comparison, you're a god. So thank you.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for all of your time. It was really a pleasure.
And I have the backup if you need it. Okay.
Thank you.
I'll send it over.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Have a wonderful
Bye.
day. Take care. Bye.